Sorry about that. And thank you so much for your patience. And we'll just dive right into the questions. So from Facebook, John Hoffman asks, Hi, Lynette. There is some talk about the government taking gold held by citizens. Just how much gold does the general public own? It depends on where you are, because there's certainly some countries like India, Vietnam, and a number of other countries that have gone through enough currency resets that they are very, very gold-oriented. Here in the U.S., that's not so noticeable. I'd like it to be a whole lot more noticeable. So I would say here in the U.S. we probably have, certainly less than 3%, less than 1%. I'm trying to grow it globally to 3%, because I think that if we've got 3% of the global population that have physical gold and silver, and we can dig our heels in and demand sound money back in the system. And that's actually the whole point of the dime cards, to be honest with you. And this also tells the difference of the measuring stick. And that's why I hand these out everywhere that I go constantly, because this is the silver dime. This is a regular dime. They're both dimes, but this one, on the day that we happened to buy it, which was February 27th, that's this particular dime, it cost us $6.72. The other dime, what can you buy with that dime? Nothing. But you used to be able to buy a couple cups of coffee with it, or an inexpensive meal. You can still do that with the silver. So, yeah, not many. We've got to get more people. That's why it's so important for you guys to be the army. And remember, if you're a client, you get the first one free. But no matter what, the rest of them at our cost, because we want to get the word out there. We need to do this, and we need to do this sooner than later. And, I task you all, look in the mirror and say, if not me, who? And if not now, when? We can make a difference if we come together. One person can't. I can't do it by myself. But together, we're all rowing in the same direction. We've got that energy. We can get more people familiar with it and more people to own it. And there's probably people that own precious metals, gold, silver, what have you, that don't realize that they actually own precious metals because it's marked sterling or 925 or 14 karat or 9 karat. You need to understand gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base. So not much. Let's change that. And Nighthawk 76, what do you think about Marsh's theory about fighting our deficit? Can you pull Marsh's theory up? Because I am not familiar with that. So, or I can come back to it and answer it next week. Either way. Whichever. Okay, we're going to pull it up. Let's see what Marsh's theory says. It's one of the reasons also why I like doing this, because I can't see everything. So you guys are also my eyes. And when you ask me about this kind of thing, and I haven't seen it before, it gives me an opportunity to look at it. So let's see. Can you make that just a little bigger? Okay. It's an educational policy. Julie Marsh's and Melanie Bertrand's theory on deficit thinking reveals how educators use data-driven reforms to blame marginalized students. Oh, interesting. To blame marginalized students for academic struggles rather than questioning systemic inequities. So let me just read that again. Let's see, policy, blah, blah, blah. Data-driven reforms to blame marginalized students. So that would be like blaming the people that are on the bottom rung of the income spectrum for being on the bottom rung of the income spectrum and bringing the average income down for everybody. Yes. So rather than questioning systemic inequities like inflation that push people down that ladder. So blame marginalized students. I'm not quite sure how to deal with that one, but yeah, if they're it's like the central banks always say we're data dependent, except they massage the data so much that you're really not getting good data to work with. And what you remember the old saying, some of you that are old enough, with the computers that just started, garbage in, garbage out. That was true then. That is true now. So if you're looking at faulty data, how are you going to get a good read? And everything is based on Keynesian economics, which is just about more and more and more and more and more and debt and debt and debt and debt and debt. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah. And high-O silver K5X, when the overnight reset happens, what happens to dollar prices? Is there more to that, or is that the end of the question? Okay. So what happens is everything falls, right? Except typically you've got the spot gold and the spot silver that will hang up at these upper levels for globally on average over time. So I cannot tell you, I'm not saying this is what is exactly going to happen because I can't control that. But generally speaking, there is this 9-month window. And during that 9-month window, what the intention of the strategy is to extinguish any of your fixed rate debt and pay them off, just like the government does with, in this country, dollars that have no value at all. So the value of the money goes down. And again, I can't tell you what that reset valuation is going to be coming up, but I can tell you that it's generally 1,000 to 1. So you go to bed at night and you got $1,000 in the bank. When you wake up in the morning, there's one. But it doesn't mean that it has any more value. It's just lost like 99% of its value. Whereas the spot markets for gold and silver hang up there for a minute longer or 9 months longer on average. And that is what enables us to execute that next part of the strategy. And we're set up and prepared for the exit part. Next question, please. So this is for North Georgia Prepper. Will the U.S. Treasury reprice the gold held by the government, if it exists, to fund the Bitcoin fund they want to build? And what will that do to the spot price? Well, look, every single country has a gold revaluation account. But the point of the account is not to take the gold and buy the new currency, though they could do it. I mean, they've talked about it. And honestly, I can't guarantee what any government and it doesn't matter who's in office, I couldn't sit here and tell you absolutely what they're going to do. And it doesn't matter to me whether they're Democrats or Republicans. It's basically all the same. So if they repriced the gold in order to buy Bitcoin, they would be missing the opportunity. And what that would actually do is it would put the U.S. On a global fiscal scale, probably pretty close, well, a much lower level. It would be higher than, presuming we actually have the gold in deep storage. So we would be higher than any other country that didn't have any gold. Like, I don't know, Canada would be one that I would think of. However, if they did that, that would be the stupidest thing in the world. And you better have a ton of gold. Also, food, water, energy, security, barterability, which for me is primarily silver, wealth preservation, which for me is primarily gold, community, which is arguably the single most important thing that we talk about, and shelter. Get that done, because if you're right, if they do that, we're in deeper doo-doo than we are already in. And I don't think that they would be that stupid. to be perfectly honest with you. And I will say this, President Trump does understand to a degree gold, and he has absolutely accepted gold for lease payments. So I don't see that, but hey, there are a lot of things that have happened that I'm like, really? Okay. And what will that do to the spot price? Well, if our government, first of all, it would have to be good gold for delivery, because whoever would buy it from us would more than likely want delivery, particularly since we've seen people taking delivery of the gold. And then if that happened and we couldn't produce the gold with the appropriate serial numbers on it, then the emperor would be obvious that emperor had no clothes on, and that would shoot the spot price of gold up. But understand that gold is not at its fundamental value. And I can't give you guarantees, but I'll guarantee you that one, because over 4,800 times in history, the same thing has happened. And I don't know, I guess I could be wrong, because this is way above my pay grade. But I kind of think that if something has happened the same way over 4,800 times and we're doing the same thing, we're more than likely to get the same results. And that's what the Zang International, that sound money strategy, is all built on those repeatable patterns, because that is the most likely outcome. And the next question, please. Okay. Pineapples in LA. Much love to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And love to you guys too, all of you, for showing up, because there's nothing more valuable than your time, and you're here with me. So this is great. I am pulling out my 401k, which is approximately $45,000. I want to buy all pre-33 gold. Is that a smart move, or should I diversify the gold? Well, what you should do is you should call us and have that conversation so that you're establishing what you are trying to accomplish. One of the things that we would encourage is this is what you can do with your gold portfolio, because this is the whole strategy. It's not just throw you in pre-33. Good luck to you. It's much more than that, because what we're trying to do, number one, is help you sustain a reasonable standard of living and create that surety in all of those 8 mantra areas. And so that, not necessarily the pre-33s, maybe some of it. Yes, I have some of it for that, but I also have a lot of foreign gold coins, not new stuff. I don't personally, you do whatever you're comfortable with. That's okay with me, and I'll support your right to do that. Personally, since I was born during a period of time when gold had been confiscated and you couldn't own more than 5 ounces, I personally do own the pre-33s or the earlier foreign gold coins that Kennedy gave a similar status to. But it would be a combination of smaller fractional pieces of both gold and silver, depending upon how you live your life. And we have it all laid out on a spreadsheet. So we know what you need silver for, we know what you need gold for, and the different kinds. Then we're going to take a look at whatever fiat money wealth you've managed to accumulate so far. And like, I think I'm glad to hear what you're doing, because I think that's a very smart move. It's a choice that I made a number of years ago. But any wealth that you must continue to hold inside of the system, we're going to properly diversify you so that if we're right, if all of that goes away because the dollar goes away, not a problem. You're made whole. Okay? Then we're going to take a look at all of your fixed rate debt and make sure that you have the right kind of gold to support that. And then finally, we're going to take a look at your future. It's always based on your goals and what are you trying to accomplish. And so it's all different. And I can't give you a blanket area, should I do all of this or should I do all of that? Because you and I would need to talk, and that's what you do. If you call up, you're going to have a very high level and then going into the weeds to make sure that whatever it is that you do support what you're trying to accomplish. Personally, I think that's critically important. It's the right tool for the right job. So give us a call or scan the QR code, make an appointment, have that conversation so that what you're doing is supportive of your goals. It's not just, boo, do this and good luck to you. And Annis Faith Jones, Keynesian economics is dead. Well, I hope so. That's all I can say, because it really doesn't work. It doesn't work. It works for some, just not for everybody. And I'd rather it work for most. And let the two that want to rule everybody else, let them be out in the cold and actually earn it. You know, we look at these massive companies. We look at, like, I think Amazon is a great example of it, because I've had through family some experience with that, right? And when Amazon first came out, for many, many years, they did not have to charge sales tax. Well, you go into a mom and pop shop, you got to pay sales tax. But Amazon didn't have to do that. Okay. For many, many years, Amazon didn't matter if they didn't make any money at all. Wall Street gave them lofty, lofty valuations like we see now, right? But their performance was irrelevant to their valuations, and Wall Street kept giving them money. You go into a mom and pop shop, if they don't make money, guess what? They go out of business. So they have to charge you more because, after all, they have to charge tax. And where Amazon did not have to, now they do, okay? But back then, for many years, I think something, don't hold me to this, but like 10 years or something like that, they were functioning at massive losses, which didn't matter, and they didn't have to charge sales tax, but they were competing. So the person in my family that used to own a toy store, and people would go in there, and while they were standing there comparing the prices between what they would have to spend at a mom and pop shop that needed to stay in business and had to charge you the tax, and what they could buy for on Amazon, people don't think. And so they'd buy it on Amazon. And so what did that do? That drove those mom and pop shops either out of business or basically working for Amazon. And once they got enough of that in place, then Amazon now charges sales tax, and they have shifted. They've shifted everything because there just are not as many mom and pop shops out there as there once were. And that was the lifeblood of communities. Because when you buy something at a local shop, most of that money stays inside of the community. So it helps support the whole community. When you buy something that is not local, that money goes outside of your community. Does it come back? Probably not, or not much of it. So this is the way things have been set up. And what makes me really happy to see, frankly, is the pushback that's starting to grow against against AI. I mean, college students are booing it. Why? Because they see that this new advancement jeopardizes what they just spent a ton of money to get an education on. These kids are coming out of college riddled with debt and not a great lot of possibilities for what they studied. And so, and people are starting to become more local. So I really want you to start thinking about it. I mean, I remember when they started bringing in all of those credit card perks, right? Well, again, because of my familial experience, I knew that all of those perks were costing the merchant money. Well, merchant can't afford to absorb those costs. The mom and pop, they can't absorb those costs. They have to make a profit in order to stay in business. And so what happened with that? Right? Now, everybody adopted it because they were getting all this stuff for free, but mom and pops and everybody else had to take those costs and put them in the price. So there's no such thing as a free lunch, period. And when something seems too good to be true, it probably is. But rather than thinking about this instant in immediate gratification for me, how about looking at what is the best thing for the community, for the future, for everybody? Because you're part of that everybody. And the reality is this: if at some point they silence you, well, if it doesn't impact your neighbor might not care, and they just go, well, all right, that didn't impact me, so I don't care. But you're going to be silenced next. Your neighbor's going to be silenced next. That's why community, and not just local, but global, we got to have these conversations. We've got to come together and think past just how this impacts us in this moment. How do you catch a wild hog? And it's important that you know this, because this is what's coming for the digital currencies. How do you catch a wild hog? Well, you pick one place and you put free food out there. And the hogs come and they eat the food. And after they get used to that for maybe a week or so, whatever it is, you put up a fence. You just put up one side. And at first they stay away because, there's something changed and I don't know. But hey, that food is still there. That's awful enticing. It's all for me. And so they go back and they eat the food. And then the next wall of that pen goes up. And again, they're leery when they first see it because it's a change. But hey, okay, the food is still there and I don't see anything else. So they go and they eat the food. And the next thing you know, you put up a third side and they're not staying away so long because after all, they had two other sides and it didn't really change anything, right? Nothing was changed. The food was still there. So they go in and they eat. And it's so easy then to put up the fourth side and capture them. Don't be captured. We have to get sound money back in the system again. We don't have any choice, because if we do not do this, we'll be slaves. We're already debt slaves. How about we fix that part with the strategy? And then how about we take our power back by having redeemable gold in the system? Government, I don't like what you're doing. Send me my gold. I know how crazy that sounds, but understand that we were in that position not that long ago. Prior to 1933, that's not that long ago. We did it before. We can do it again. And all we need, 3% of the global population, and that would give us enough power. Started the Revolutionary War, 3%. Well, Edith Feeney, 5393, where do you buy your gold and silver? We have a number of wholesalers that we work with. So that ensures that you're always in at the market, but you're also always out at the market. And that we could do a full strategy, which is about what you buy as you're entering the market. But we actually have an exit strategy. And we are happy to explain that exit strategy to you. And I do it all the time right here, is talking about how we're going to deal with your fixed rate debt. That's the exit strategy. So I don't know anybody else, honestly, I don't know anybody else that actually really, truly has a strategy. You can blah, 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 say anything you want. But I don't know of any other gold company that actually has somebody that's studied currency life cycle since 1987. I have, and thank goodness I've been groomed for this moment in time. So I can't be specific for obvious reasons, but Megan Johnson from Facebook, Megan Johnson from Facebook says, best show on YouTube. Thank you so much. Now, should I tell you that that's my daughter? And she actually also started a YouTube channel, and she's really quite comical. So some of you that have been watching me for a really long time probably remember her. Megan, could you let me know what the name of your YouTube channel is? And I'll let her go check it out. I mean, she makes me laugh. I'm not kidding. Sorry about this. Okay. And I saw something from, is this it? Lewis Brown, 958 asks, so if you go to bed with $1,000 in the bank and you wake up with one, what is the value of the cash in your wallet that's outside of the system? Are we on? Okay. A big fat zero, a big fat goose egg, 1,000 times less. It has no value. And I really think I do this pretty regularly, but if you do it yourself, it's probably going to have a bigger impact. Go on the FRED, the Federal Reserve Education Department, and put the purchasing power in the search bar and look at that left-hand axis and the Federal Reserve themselves telling you that the true value, it's true. It doesn't matter. I could pick up anyone and it'd be true. But the true value of this is zero. It doesn't take anything to create it. And we're at 2.9 cents out of the original dollar's worth of purchasing power. So, you kind of moved the questions around, but so I don't know if I answered that one fully or not because I couldn't double check on the question. Wait, okay. So, all right. Yep. That's the value of whatever you have. I don't care how much you have. I have this. It costs them 9.6 cents to print this. Actually, this is an older one. The ones with the safety stuff in there. 9.6 cents. How can this be worth $100? Your confidence. That's how it can be worth $100. It's not. And Todd Demetra from Facebook asks, if the CCP, so that's counterparty, central counterparty, CCP, runs out of liquidity, so they run out of money, and has to be backstopped, it appears that would be the Fed. That would be accurate. If this is correct, and the Fed prints money for the backstop, then it appears the taxpayer will once again pay for the big banks' bad bets. Is this correct? And can you elaborate on that? And that is absolutely 100% correct, but let's expand that out to also include all of the technology corporations. Who in the world do you think is really running things? It's these private corporations. And with the advent of the Genius Act and the stable coins that are all backed by dollars and debt, the value of them is zero. That's why they need a huge crisis to stuff us and get us used to and accepting the digital system. But the digital system is just a trap like the wild hogs. Don't be a wild hog. Make sure that you have surety in all of those really important areas, the things that you can't outlive, and that you're surrounded by like-minded people. I have to tell you that I got a little bit of pushback because the off-grid property it's expensive to maintain. Right? And hey, I don't need an off-grid property at this exact second. But the more I see about what's going out there, the more thankful, honestly, the more thankful that I am that I did it when I did it, and that I'm doing it really how I'm doing it. Because if you need to be someplace, it's a plan B. Would I like a plan C? Yes, I absolutely would. So I'm not going to negate that. And that means a place that's not even in this country, and maybe, an additional passport or two. I'm not there yet because I'm still doing my research on it, but at least I have a plan B. And that helps me feel a lot more comfortable. Your plan B, you might say, well, I can't afford to do that. And a lot of people, most people probably can't. But you might know somebody that has or could. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and they have, their grandparents have this farm out in the, in the sticks, and while they'd rather stay in this, you might really look around, and even if you can't do it itself, I can tell you, every single person on this planet has a gift that they can share. And that is our job. We are here to share the gifts that we have been given. That's what I'm doing. That's what motivates me every single day to get up and do this work, because I pretty much work 7 days a week. That's how important this is to me, because that is my obligation to you. You guys have, I don't know, you might have a little bit of an idea, but you could talk to anybody here at Zang International, and especially the people that have known me for a long time. I am so committed to you guys. I am so appreciative of you being here. I am so appreciative of you guys spreading the word, whether you do it with dime cards or you do it with videos. We've got some under 5-minute videos, and I'm always working on how can I make those better. Give us feedback. We work for you. That's who we work for. But I can tell you, we should all come together and help each other be better. Do you know what I think a good relationship is? And people that know me, they hear me say this anyway, because I believe it's true. I don't care whether it's business, familial, friendship, anything. The best relationships are where everybody that are part of that relationship can be the best and supports being the best that they can be. And not what I think your best is, but what you think your best is. And imagine if everybody came in and were trying to be supportive of each other, so that we all had someone to lean on when you need to lean a little bit. But everybody brings the gifts that they have been given. Up at the bug out, I have plumbers, I have farmers, I have doctors, I have teachers, I have electricians, I have massage therapists. The list goes on and on and on. And what is this? Is all different people that bring a gift. And what I love the most about Zang International is how diversified we are. Yesterday, Jacqueline and I were having a meeting with Ashley. Ashley's in her 20s. Jacqueline's, I think, in her 50s. I'm in my 70s. And we were learning from each other. We were teaching each other. And it was glorious. And that's how I feel with this, because you ask me questions, maybe I don't know the answer. I can't know everything, right? It just helps me be better. And so that's what I hope I help with you. And that's our goal. Our goal here is to be of service and help you be the best that you can be by making those educated choices that, I don't know, what a concept. You get to actually put your best interest first. And if you disagree with us, we're here to support you in that. What a concept. This is a community. Communities don't have to agree on everything, but they should support each other. And Danielle BBQ, all cash will become useless. 1,000 to 1, you'll have nothing. But you still got to eat. You still need water. You still need security. So come together and you can make it happen. And Kenny Cleckley, why come it's not a dollar to silver ratio? Oh, okay. So if you're looking for a dollar to silver ratio, quite honestly, the spot market kind of, sort of, maybe sort of does that, because that is the silver contract to the spot contract. That's all. And the higher that silver goes, and it's the same thing with gold. And let's talk about the fundamental value, because the spot markets, they mean something, and it's an opportunity when they pull back, but they don't reflect the fundamental value yet. I can tell you 100% they will, because that's what's happened every single time. It's not rocket science, and we're already in the transition from the paper markets dictating price to the physical true supply and demand markets dictating price. So if you're looking for a dollar to silver ratio, honest to goodness, that's also what the fundamental value would show you. So I'd say, 1,800 to 1 at this moment. And the more debt, the more of this they do, the higher that number goes. But again, I can't even buy one egg with this 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. Doesn't matter how many dollars you have. It matters what you can convert it into. So don't be fooled by nominal confusion. That's the plan. Break out of the matrix. And Handamojo1 asks, with the creation of the paper casino in 1913, did the middle class then just become a highball trucking company transferring wealth from lower wealth holders to higher wealth holders at a faster rate? Okay, let me go back, and I want to make sure, or do my best. And if by the way, I ever explain something and you don't understand what I'm talking about, let me know. That's my job. It's not you, it's me. And I'll try and figure out how to say it in another way or show you in another way. The middle class, actually, what happened during that period of time as we were transitioning from, really a bimetal, gold, silver standard into this debt-based standard was, they printed a lot of, Federal Reserve notes, right? That's when they were transitioning from the gold to the Federal Reserve notes. For 20 years, they were all in circulation at the same time with the same stated purchasing power value. But this is corporate debt. And I just did a piece. I don't think it's out yet, but you'll see it's data from them. So what that actually did to the middle class, because they actually printed, originally it was a 20th of an ounce of gold, about that big, that backed $1. In 1913, they changed that to that 20th of an ounce of gold backing $2.40. Can you put the purchasing power chart up for me, please? Let me show you. Let me walk you through it and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so you see that big, huge dip right out of the chute. Thank you. That's perfect. That's because they printed $2.4 for every 20th of an ounce of gold held in deep storage. And so right out of the chute, creating all of that money, the dollar itself lost about 52% of its purchasing power, but there was so much more of it out there. And then in their infinite wisdom, this was the first time that the middle class actually had access to credit, and especially credit that wasn't necessarily backed by anything. And so that was the Roaring 20s, where you had that middle class that then had so much more paper money in circulation, it made them feel rich. And they went to emulate those wealthy industrialists. And remember, the Industrial Revolution, we're going through another revolution now. So these two periods of time are really parallel. And so now they had all of this access to credit. They had all of this more paper money coming in. And you see that little, oh, you took the chart away. Could you give it back to me, please? Thank you. You see that little blip back up? We've talked about this in the past, right? When you see prices going up for rent or food or eggs are a great example. And they went up so much and everybody's going, oh my God, the price of eggs, the price of eggs. Well, when they pulled back, they didn't go back to the very lower level. So from this Federal Reserve chart, when they went up, they didn't go all the way back up to that dollar's worth of purchasing power. But people went, oh, things are getting back to normal because you had a little bit, you saw that prices went down a little bit. You see that in that chart. And then you see what happens when we hit that wide gray band, which is the Depression. And you can see that it looks like the value of the dollar went up so much. Thank you. That's great. And you can see that. But in all of your studies of the Depression, did you ever read how great it was for the general public? And do you really think that it was a coincidence because that middle class was also watching the stock market make new highs? And what was in the newspapers? I don't know if I put that in the bar report, but I've shown this to you guys before. What was in the paper was all the retail public. So what I want you to understand, especially when you're looking at between 1913 and 1933, up until that point in time, every single central bank had a charter. So this is how long they were allowed to exist. Typically 15 to 20 years, because the governments knew that they would more than likely create some level of hyperinflation. They could blame it on the central bank, and so the government could absolve themselves from any wrongdoing. But here's what you're looking at. I'm pretty sure, don't hold me to this, I could be off a year on each, but I don't think I am. In 1927, for the very first time historically, the Federal Reserve was the bank, the only central bank, and the very first one that was given a perpetual charter. So not 15 to 20 years. Their original charter was a 20-year charter, which would end in what year? 1933. Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But so 1927, central bank got the perpetual charter. By 1928, most of the industrialists, understanding the paper, the vulnerable paper markets that they had created, sold out most of their wealth. So they transferred the wealth and sold those stocks at the high levels. I don't know what might be happening now, to that middle class who was given a ton of credit. So don't hold me to this because obviously I don't have the data in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that about 90 to 95% of the stock market at that time, probably higher than that today, was bought on margin. In other words, those stocks were bought on debt. Works great as the market keeps going up because that means that you can leverage that debt even more. Works horrendous in the opposite direction. Because as we've seen, when stock markets pull back and most of that debt has been bought on margin, then they get margin calls. And then they have to sell whatever it is the market will bear, which is frequently why we see the spot gold and the spot silver contracts pull back, because they might want to sell something else, but there might simply not be a market for it. So It wasn't that the dollar got so strong during the Great Depression like you see in the 30s. That was really the kickoff. And they used that crisis as an excuse to take the gold, to take the power away from the citizens. Because after that period of time, what do you vote with? Prior to that, you didn't like what they were doing, you pulled the gold out of the system. Once you couldn't do that as a citizen, you gave up. We gave up all of our power. It's time for us to take it back. And you can see where it is now. And do you see the zero on the bottom of that left-hand axis? That's not me telling you there's no value in the currency. That's the Federal Reserve that's supposed to manage the rate and speed of that loss, telling you there is no value in that currency because it takes absolutely nothing to create it. Can you go to the year, please? Just 1 year. So I know that it looks like on the end of a long-term period of time that it's flat, but it's not flat. Look at this. Oh, and by the way, that's when the government was shut down. You see that gap in reporting? Right. That's when the government was shut down. Do you really believe these numbers? And I'll tell you something else that's been extremely interesting to me, and I've never really seen it quite like this before, and I've been looking at this particular chart for I couldn't even tell you how many years. And that is when you went down to the very bottom, it said 3.0. But since they did this reading on May 12th, sometimes when I go there, it's 3.0 like it is today. Other times when I've gone in there since May 12th and on May 12th, it was 2.9. So sometimes when I look at this graph, what's going on? Why is it doing that? Because they don't want to break another level. I remember when it broke 4 cents, right? I think that was April. I have to go back and look. But you see, this is another big period. And this is the central bank telling you that there is no value in these dollars. And the loss of that purchasing power, this is the real trend. It's not how high can the stock market go. It's not how high can the crypto markets go, because all of that is in terms of dollars. It doesn't matter how many dollars you have. It matters what you can convert them into. And that requires confidence because they have no value. And the emperor is not wearing any clothes. And no matter how many times you want to convince me that they're wearing clothes, it doesn't work because my eyes are clear. How many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? What I show you is the truth. If you come to a different conclusion, I support your right to do that. I'm giving you my well-educated opinion, but I'm also showing you where I'm getting my opinion from. So let's see. Yeah, that's basically what happened during that period of time. And I do frankly consider myself an expert on that. And I would love to have a conversation with Ben Bernanke one day. Yeah, because he thinks he's an expert. And I'm sure he is. I just don't think he tells you the truth. That's all. I'm telling you the truth. That's all. And if you want the proof, yeah, my nickname is Data Gal. I'll give you all the proof you want, and from credible, or what most people consider credible, sources. So Kelly Ray from Facebook asks, if Mexico is no longer accepting any cash in the coming months and everything must be paid by digital currency, then where do you use your Cash App or your gold or your silver? So this is a great question, because that very well, I mean, I can't guarantee that that's not going to happen everywhere in the world. That's what they want. And if we're not strong enough to overcome that, but here's the whole point. There are 36 different global physical users of silver. There are 33, and there could be more. That's just what I could count, and you can get the list. Just call us, and we'll be very happy to send you it. But there are 33 different global users of physical gold. Those don't evaporate just because they force us onto a digital system. Now, yep, you would have to convert it into whatever the legal money of the realm happens to be. But that's so easy to do because of the level of buyers. That's the thing to keep in mind. 33, 36, 1. This is my physical rendition of Bitcoin 1. So, yep, and that's our job too, to convert it into whatever the legal money of the realm is. So if that happens to be digital, we'll do it. We'll wire transfer the money, and you can do what you need to do. And by the way, that is part of the exit strategy, because opportunities always present during change, period, end of discussion, always. So if you're in the right place at the right time with the right asset, then you get to build your wealth. Now, that means when we see, you hear me talk about this cup formation all the time, right? And that cup formation is an indication of an accumulation pattern where smart money has recognized an undervalued circumstance and is quietly accumulating. When we see that pattern, that's when it will be time to convert our growth gold into those other income-producing assets at that time. Well, you might do some of it directly, because at that point we'll also be in hyperinflation, which also means that if I were going to buy, let's say, some income-producing real estate, for example, if I'm buying it from a corporation, they're not going to probably accept physical gold for it, even if they might want to. If I'm buying it from an individual, they very well may prefer the physical gold to the digital or the paper or what have you. Because let me tell you, when you're in hyperinflation, everybody knows what's happening to the currency. That's why the central bank's job, it's not their job to fight inflation. They I don't think I have any left in there. They create the inflation intentionally. Their job is to use those interest rates to regulate the rate and speed so that they maintain your confidence and you still believe that this garbage has value. And so you agree to continue to work for it and to try and save it for some future use, even though you know it's going to buy you less and less. Therefore, you have to take risk to make an attempt to maintain its speed. And like I just showed you, the stock market, maybe we can even go back to that, but the stock market is making constant new highs, except so is the loss of purchasing power. And so quite honestly, even though it looks like it's going up, it's not. It's going down because you can only convert it into fiat money that is intentionally losing value and is only being held together by your confidence. And that's changing. Have you noticed people getting angrier about what's going on and starting to fight back? Ray Dalio, and I've done some of his, talked to about a lot of his work. He believes that we're already at the start of a revolution, and I agree with him 100%, and I say flippin' hallelujah. It is time we took our power back. And I'm committed to whatever it is I'm told to do it. I'm committed to that, even when it makes no sense to me at all. I'm just guided, I'm just a warrior. That's all I am. I'm just a warrior. And I was put on this planet and taught what I was taught so that I could help you see the truth and you could be in a position to make those choices that puts your best interest first. I mean, the reality is you're the one that's impacted by whatever choices you make, one way or another, not me, you. So let's let them be educated. That's why I don't care if you disagree with me or if you agree with me. I'm here to support your choices because I want you to always have those choices. And once we're in digital system, you lose those choices. Unless you have gold and silver outside of the system, because I can always convert these into whatever that local currency is. And where originally the strategy was about converting not everything, because every portfolio should always have a foundation of sound money. But depending upon where we are in the trend cycle and what's going on, would determine the kind of gold you need and the kind of silver you need and how much of that should be in your portfolio, right? So when we go into a brand new system, I don't anticipate needing as much as I have right now. But the reality is I'm all in. I'm not telling you to be all in. But I have studied this on some level my entire life. And frankly, there is not even one teeny weeny, like not any part of my brain tells me that this is not a currency regime shift. I know it is. I know it is because the dollar's purchasing power, according to those that are in power, is zero. And we're not far from that. And they can hide it because, hey, they create the formulas. And what do? They change the formulas. But if there's no value in the currency, what gives it its value? Confidence. And so when we go into this revolution, it's because confidence is lost. And that's why creating both a local community system that creates surety in those 8 mantra areas, as well as a global community to demand redeemable gold back in the system again, I don't see any other choice. Not if I want the future generations that are here but that are yet to be born. Let me tell you, we have to do it for them. It's not about us. It's about the future generations. And the beauty part of Ashley, Jacqueline, and I having the conversation that we had last night, it's good for all of us. Even if we disagree, there's always some level of truth in there. So rather than rejecting all of it, why not learn from it? I probably went off tangent. I'm so sorry. But yeah, your gold and your silver, we're here to convert it into whatever that local currency might be, but it's more important than ever, if that's where we end up, that you have this outside of the system. More important than ever, because you can always convert it. That's the whole point of that broadest base of buyer. They don't go away. Maybe it'll go down over here, but it's going up over here. So that's diversification. And I'll just repeat this because I can't repeat this too much. 36 different global users, 33 different global users. One local user, maybe global users in this physical depiction of Bitcoin, but one place. So demand goes away there, bye-bye. Not true with this. This is probably the single most important thing. Well, community is the single most important thing that I talk about. But when I'm trying to help you understand sound money, it's sound money because it's above those guys. It's above those corporations. They need this stuff that at will It doesn't mean anything. What in the world is going to fund all of this trillions and trillions of dollars worth of infrastructure? More debt. More debt. And who's going to be left holding the bag? Whoever holds that debt. And that would be a lot of retirement plans, guys. A lot of the public. Because we're just the right size to fail. I don't think so. I think coming together, we're big enough to beat them at their game. And Kelly Ray from and Frank 8424. So what would you say a good price for silver to get to before changing into gold? And thanks for the videos. It is definitely my pleasure, and I'm excited because we've got some more things that we've been working on that we're getting ready to launch. But I love it here. Why in the world? If you knew that its true value and where it was going minimally was $1,800 and you could buy it at $75, why wouldn't you do that? And when is a good time to turn your silver into gold? You got to be absolutely confident that you're going to be able to. And it's availability. That's the thing. You've got all of these users, but a finite amount. And so I can tell you 100% that what I was able to position into back in 2002 and the early 2000s and what I can position into today, some of it's the same, but some of it, no way can I get my hands on that. Not at any price because it's off the market. And since I really am about function first, that's why I don't do the gold-silver ratio transfer from the one to the other, because I like to look at what am I trying to accomplish, what's the right tool for the job. You get that laid in, and then it just doesn't matter. Then I don't have to worry about it. If you look on the gold-silver ratio chart, and I haven't done this in the last, I don't know, maybe I did it a month-ish ago or something like that. And how much silver do you have? Why don't you call us? Because silver is part of the barterable part of the portfolio. You already bought it. You already paid the fees for it. Now, it depends on what you have. But call us and we'll help you figure that out. But quite honestly, I think laying in your strategy, knowing what you need and buying into that, that's where my personal level of comfort is, because I don't want to have to pay attention to things that hard. I pay a lot of attention to things, but Danielle BBQ, show a chart of the life cycles of the world's currencies for the last 500 years. This may help people see that we are close to the life cycle end. And Danielle, that is a very good point. Don't know that I could do all 4,800, but if you set that up for me, I'll have that for you next week. I could do that for next week. And we out of here from Instagram. Hello from DC. What does silver price look like after a gold price reset? So this is what happens, right? Typically, you'll see that gold to silver ratio going more and more narrow until we really are in the hyperinflation in earnest. And then you see that spread widen again. I've shown you this before. I'll show it to you again. I'll kind of see what's going to make the most sense, and I'll try. And, you know, a lot of times I will redo things that I've done before because I do find that I do them a little bit better the next time that I do them because I'm just looking at it a little bit differently. So that's really what it looks like. You'll see that after a reset, you know, where's it going to settle out? It's kind of hard to say. That's why I go back into the function. But Yeah, it grows more narrow for a minute until we're full blown in the hyperinflation. And the silver continues to maintain your ability to buy the same food and basic necessities, but gold does a whole lot more. And because gold is the primary currency metal, silver is the secondary currency metal. Silver is the fuse. It's more volatile. It kind of spans, even though, they're pretty close in the number of global users, 33, 36. But silver gets used up. Gold, which is why it's not the primary currency metal, because you need a measuring stick. So you need something that's constant and fungible. And I mean, silver can be fungible too. But gold, you can put down into different sizes and it's indestructible. And you can take it like in any form and you can melt it down and turn it into coins or anything else. But would you grab that question too? Because there's some things that I haven't actually looked at, and that kind of sparks me a little bit. Thank you, We Out of Here. Thank you, everybody. Honestly, I love the questions, and I love it when I go, you know what? I haven't really thought about that. Let me take a look at that, and I'll bring it back to you. And I'll do that. I'll have that for you next week. So be here. And Scorpio 1964 says, are proof gold and silver coins worthwhile investments, or should one stick to non-proof? Well, my experience with proof is that there are times, you can do the proof inside of here's the reality. You can do the proof inside of an IRA. Therefore, it really is classified as monetary gold. I don't personally think that they are worth it because I've had experiences a lot with wholesalers that there's a big premium going in, but they don't pay the premium on the way out. That's not always true, so I can't really make that blanket statement. But what I mostly don't like is that I can hold it in an IRA, because that's where I think if they were to do an overt confiscation, that's going to be the easiest place for them to attack, since that's where most people hold it. I definitely wouldn't have it. I have to say, you got to do what you're comfortable with. I personally don't own any proof coins, but I do own a lot of pre-33s. And Danielle BBQ asks, consider these. Okay, so can you scroll down? And she'll just grab those and we'll go from there. Next question, please. And Shaftenar Media Productions, in the Netherlands, your assets will be taxed a lot in that is definitely a tool that governments use, a lot in 2028. Every year we have to pay 36% tax on unrealized profits. Profit on paper, you are obliged to sell your gold or silver to pay the tax. So let me ask you, why is that okay with you? You got the 1% dictating and robbing from the 99%. Do you want more of a say in how you're taxed and how things are used and where that money really goes? Redeemable gold in the global system. That's how you do it, because that's how we can vote. And that's where everybody's going. It's not just in the Netherlands. That's what governments do. They put a high tax on it so that you go, oh, I don't want to pay that tax. I mean, seriously, I think a very interesting study for anybody to do is to look at the conversations that are released many years later, because they don't want you to know it at the time, on how they calculated out or how they created, for example, IRAs. They sat there and they said, how high do the fees have to be to deter people from wanting to take distributions? That's what they do. I don't want to pay those taxes. You know, how many times have I had people say, no, the tax is so high, I don't want to pay that. Well, if you stay in fiat and you lose 100%, you have no principal to work with, you have no way to recoup it. But if you pay 38% or 50% or even 75%, and you still have some principal left, you can regrow it. So would I stay away from gold or silver because they're going to tax me on it? No. But I am going to get involved at a level where I think I can make a difference. And I'm going to accumulate it, and then I'm going to work on having a say. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But this I know, if I do nothing, I can't expect them to go, what is in Lynette's best interest? I mean, seriously, have you seen anything that the politicians do that are really in your best interest? It's not who are lobbying. The tech companies, they have more money than governments, and they spend it, they lobby, they get what they want. Take our power back so that we can do that and have an input into how money's spent. You know, I mean, I think the blockchain technology is phenomenal. And my good friend Gerald Celente, he asks this question, and I agree with him. Blockchain technology, what do we need all the politicians for? Why can't the citizens just vote? Yeah, well, if we get sound money back in the system, we can make that happen too. We'll need fewer politicians, and they won't be able to abuse us as much. What a concept. Next question, please. And Daniel BBQ, Lynette, talk about the importance of always using cash and ask if you can pay in sound money. Well, that's a great topic. And yes, my personal preference at every opportunity is to pay with cash. And in fact, if a business will not take my cash, then I don't go there. And I let them know it, not that they understand what I'm talking about. I let them know it. I give them a dime card, because how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? But paying with cash, I mean, it goes back to all of the fees. So look at what the banks are doing. If everything is digital, then that means that no matter what you do, the banks are making money off of you. In cash, they weren't making the money. That's why they want to eliminate. That's one of the reasons why they want to eliminate the cash. Another reason for eliminating cash is because cash does still create restrictions around what governments can do, because it is a debt instrument, Federal Reserve note. A note's a debt instrument, but it does not pay or charge you interest. But don't worry, because the central banks let us know that negative interest rates are a choice, not an absolute given. Because, hey, don't you want to work your butt off, save money that you know is losing value, that you want to use sometime in the future, but I'm going to loan this to you, government or stranger or corporation, for 100 years or 5 years, or oh heck, with the level of inflation, a year, and agree to take back less than what I loaned you to begin with? Please tell me on what planet that makes any sense at all, because honestly, it really doesn't. So using cash takes away those fees from the banks, which who minds that other than the banks, and it leaves more money in the local community. Think about becoming a locavore, where maybe it costs you a little bit more, but it keeps the money in the community, and that helps everybody else. And really next week, Kenneth will be back, and actually maybe even Jen might be here then. We could have a very interesting live next week. We'll see what we can do about that. But, Kenneth used gold as a down payment for a vehicle, and maybe you can ask him more about that. You go in, and I do that. I haven't done it for a vehicle, but I've certainly used gold and silver because if I'm working with somebody, I'll say, okay, you have some choices. I could pay you this way. I could pay you this way. I could pay you this way. What do you prefer? And there are times, definitely, where at least part of the payment will be in physical gold or silver. And then maybe some of the payment will just be in fiat because, after all, we still have to pay fees. And this is legal tender. This is sound money, but that's legal tender. So it's very important to use cash because that's also a vote. If more people use cash. And the other thing that they want to do by eliminating cash, so why it's important to maintain cash in the system, is because with cash, it goes what? This happens to be a $20 bill. So 20.00. Now, if you're looking at the purchasing power chart from the Federal Reserve Education Department, they'll go 0.029. So they'll go out 3, maybe even 4 decimal places. But you see, it worked for a while in hiding the inflation. But once you get to a certain point where we have no purchasing power left, well, then that inflation has to happen at a slower level. That's the goal. That 2% target creates inflation that you kind of ignore, you kind of accept, and you just take on debt to sustain your standard of living. But we have virtually and officially no purchasing power left. So we need to go to a system that hides it even more. And if you go in digital, is there any limit to how far past that period you can push the digits? No limits. So just like gold created limits for governments and they took it away in 33, cash also creates limits for governments and they want to take that away. And then, you better have gold and silver out of the system because you can always convert it just because the broadest base of buyers. And Miramore asks, how much does the exit strategy cost to activate? Nothing. Costs nothing. It's part of the strategy. And so we aren't going to go, oh, it's time for you to execute the next part of the strategy, but we're not going to let you know when that is until you give us, No, it costs nothing, right? Other than whatever it'll cost to go into the next asset. So, and Queen Finsa, oh my gosh, hair is perfect. Oh my gosh. Jessica's putting her laptop over her face because I have gone I was growing my hair a little bit because I was kind of enjoying having it as long as it was, but I am hating it right now. It is so hard. Look at it. Ugh. I'm glad you like it. I know she said, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going next week. I can't wait. She's on the person that does my hair is, I think, on vacation. That's why I've had to wait this long. But thank you so much. And, okay. Oh, and Megan, you must have shut this down. Megan Johnson asks, does LZ, she calls me LZ, does LZ know her daughter is watching today? What's your website? What's your YouTube channel? She's hysterical. This girl, I swear, she could have totally been a stand-up comedian. She has no filter and she has no fear and she is hysterical. So go and watch it. Not, just for its collision. What? Collision MGA. Is that the name of MGA Collision. Yeah, that's her collision center, but is that the name of her YouTube channel? She's okay. Jessica's pulling that up. Go and watch. I laughed and maybe part of it's as a mother, but I've had other people that actually don't know her watch it and laugh. She's so funny. Watch it. It's just for entertainment. And yes, Megan, I know you're watching, and I love you so very much. And if Whitney, if you're watching, I love you too very much. They're my babies. I love them. And Bad Pup 3922, hi Lynette, Mark Moss is pushing Bitcoin hard as possible the next currency. What are your thoughts about Bitcoin and what could be the next digital currency replacing the petrodollar? You know, I mean, I've known Mark for a whole bunch of years, and we've had lots and lots of conversations about Bitcoin. I do not think that Bitcoin can possibly be the next currency. And the reason is, look at what it's been doing. It's not reflective of anything. It's got, it's just a trading tool. And it's a Trojan horse to get you comfortable with digital currency. So I like Mark. And I've known him for many years, and you know, I'm sure I'm going to see him at upcoming events, and I have a lot of respect for him. But I do not think he's right about Bitcoin being the next digital currency because the right people don't own it. It's going to be, you know, what do I think it's going to be? Well, I think it's going to be some kind of stable coins in general that will be the next currency because the U.S. dollar already has about 99% of all of the stable coin issuance are backed by dollars. So when you're talking about the petrodollar and the next dollar coming in, or the next fiat money coming in, you know, whether it's CBDCs or it's stable coins, and those understand governments can issue stable coins, corporations can issue stable coins, anybody can issue a stable coin. So I think the next digital currency that will replace the petrodollar is probably more universal. I think that it's probably from the SDR, my opinion. The SDR is the International Monetary Fund, the IMF's internal currency, and it's a basket of currencies. And they've been working on an umbrella currency because they can put every single local currency inside this currency umbrella. And so it would, you know, globally, if every currency is in there, it's easy to transact on a global level, and then it just goes into the local currency. So in the U.S., we could have digital dollars or digital stable coins or whatever. But if there's going to be one entity that's going to control the global or the currencies of the world, the most logical entity is the IMF. And the most logical currency is the SDR because it's got history. It's been around since '69. It was originally created to take over as the world reserve currency from the U.S. dollar, and everybody's got it, right? Everybody's got lots and lots of SDRs, and they have a system that's already been in place and tested to convert dollars and dollar-denominated assets and instruments like bonds or currencies or cash or what have you into SDR-denominated issuings. So that would be, it's called the substitution fund. You can go on the IMF and pull up the substitution fund. And so any government or corporation can deposit the the dollar denominated asset in the substitution fund, and then the IMF would biff bam boom convert it into an SDR denominated asset or instrument. Then in theory, they could determine the speed at which those dollars could come back to the U.S. and therefore, I don't know, control some of that hyperinflation? I don't know. This is a theory. I don't think it's going to work in real life. But it would also mean that the SDR becomes the broadest base of money that's out there, because right now it's the dollar. So to me, when you're looking at what the next digital currency is to replace the petrodollar, it's not Bitcoin that's owned by a handful of people. It's the IMF and the SDR that's controlled by non-elected officials, central banks, and treasury heads from almost every country on the planet. There's 196 countries in the world. 189 of them are members of the IMF. To me, that seems like the easiest and most logical transition, and that's what I think it's going to be. And we'll find out. Either way, got gold, got silver, because you can always convert it into whatever the legal money of the realm is, but this is how you maintain your purchasing power, and they don't control you. And you create that surety: food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. And I know that every time I try and do something like that, people don't watch as much, but they're not separate. I do that because of all the studies about currency life cycles and the change that we're in. I mean, I wasn't a farmer or even gardener. I mean, I like being outside. I'm definitely an outside person. But I did all of that, and I'm doing all of that because of what's happening in the economy. And, okay, so Collision Crash Course is my daughter Megan's channel. Seriously, go watch her videos. She worked for me for 5 years. I really wanted her to stay with me, but she's got to fly on her own, and she can do it. She's smart. She's capable. She's a mini me. Actually, she is. She's very, very, she's mini me. But go watch her channel. She's hysterical. Can I have the next question, please? Optimistic beekeeper. Boy, we just got the best honey. We got like 39 gallons, and I think that he just didn't call in, just get some more. I know Jason was telling me that it was another, how much was it?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a whole nother one here.
Coming up?
Yeah. We're ready to harvest.
Oh my gosh, these bees are going nuts. It's awesome. So I too am an optimistic beekeeper. And hi, Lynette, can you explain in really basic terms? I'll try. What a stable coin is. Great live stream. Many thanks. Many thanks to you. Okay. So a stable coin, and I actually, maybe you can pull the link to the video that I did on stable coins and put that in there, so we'll get into it. You can get into it a little bit more. But a stable coin is issued from somebody, right? Mostly really corporations, but like I said earlier, it could be a government, it could be whatever. And the Genius Act, and actually I think that Kenneth is going to be doing something on the Genius Act coming up too. So you'll watch that. But the stable coin is backed by dollars on a 1-to-1 basis. So essentially it's issued by a corporation, and it's just a replacement. It's a replacement for this. So when they buy the dollars to back the stable coins, then they have to take those dollars and buy treasuries. So it supports the debt market, and it's kind of like this circular thing, because then they can print more money. Well, here, I'll just do this. Then they can print more money. So a stable coin is a 1-to-1 backed note issuance from a corporation, a government, or estate. And it really is about prolonging this, but I don't think they really need to prolong it too much further. Because even when we go into this next iteration, it ain't over yet. It's not that easy, because since those stable coins are required to buy the debt of the government, wait a minute. We already have on a global basis unpayable debt. Can you add more unpayable debt on top of debt that's already unpayable? No, you got to get rid of it. So what the stable coins will really do is usher in the hyperinflation that is visible. Based upon the money supply, the velocity or the speed at which money changes hands, I think we're already in that early phases of it. So I might start talking about things sooner than it's really apparent. I've kind of done that my entire life, but it doesn't, it gives you like a heads up. So I don't know if that helped, optimistic beekeeper, but it's a note that's issued by a corporation, a country, a state that is one-to-one to their fiat money and requires additional debt. And if I didn't do it well, then maybe we can talk about that more, because I know Kenneth is doing a whole big piece on that as well. So let me know, and we'll keep working on it, and watch the piece I did on stable coins, and that probably will help you. Hopefully that'll help you more. And Trucking Progress asks, if the U.S. plans to reset their currency with Bitcoin as its reserve currency, how does that impact gold? You know, Bitcoin is it's ether, right? We have not gone through the test. Bitcoin has not passed any test. Bitcoin has not even yet been tested. So the U.S. cannot, if the U.S. reset their currency and used Bitcoin as not going to happen. Not going to happen. And yeah, how does that? 36 different users, 33 different user. I don't care what they do. One. You're going in. This is the fight of our lives. You want to go in with a penknife? You want to go in with a penknife? And I don't think that anybody that is part of the government right now could I shouldn't say this because I don't know that this is true, actually. How stupid would that be? Incredibly stupid. And I'm glad I'm here for you guys and my family, because you'll need me even more than you need me right now. Yeah, that won't happen. That won't happen. And it won't impact, it wouldn't impact gold. 33 users. Those don't evaporate no matter what. Those don't evaporate. 36 users. Those don't evaporate. Art Jogo from Instagram asks, would you sell precious metals to get out of total debt? Actually, that is part of the strategy, but you want to do it in a very strategic way. So right now is not the time to do that. But when they do that overnight reset and you've got gold that holds up at this level, then boom, you take those gains and boom, you pay off that debt. So would I sell precious metals to get out of total debt? That's the plan. Not all my precious metals, but and that's why I said when you call us, we're going to talk about your goals. We're also going to talk about your fixed rate debt. So you're going to know, how much gold do I need today to pay off that debt? And it's based upon the fundamental value, because the spot market charts are a trading tool. And we're not talking about trading in this. We're talking about getting rid of that debt. So we calculate out, based upon your debt that you have, we calculate out, okay, this is how much gold you need to deal with that debt. Now, it might just be that at the moment you need 10 ounces of, I'm just pulling numbers, you need 10 ounces of gold today to satisfy that mortgage debt. But by the time we get there, based on how much of this stuff that they have printed, you might need, instead of the 10 ounces, you might need 1/10 of an ounce. That means you got all the rest of that gold for other purposes. So yes, the answer is absolutely. It's part of the plan, but you want to do it in a planned way. Question? And Stephanie's 7013, I read somewhere the U.S. plans to reset with stable coins backed by U.S. gold. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, gold is sound money that is global money. And it's been adopted for thousands of years. There are always tests to fiat money, period. And not one of them have ever passed ultimately the test, because it takes very little money and very little effort to create this stuff, and then they choose winners and losers. And it's the corporations that grow up around the corporate central banks that are the biggest winners, because they get to use the money first when it has the highest level of purchasing power. By the time you and I get it, it has a whole lot less. And quite honestly, I just showed you the purchasing power chart. You know, we're at the end of this currency's life cycle, not because of rocket science or because I say so, but because there's virtually no purchasing power left. And the only way to go into a new system that's, again, based on debt, is to get rid of all the debt that's there, so you start out with a clean slate. That will be the test. Do I think that cryptocurrencies will pass that test? No, I don't. Now, that is not to say that I don't think that that's going to be part of the monetary system, because that is the direction that we're going in. So I definitely see a pathway where we can have redeemable gold as part of a digital system. We can do that. Keep the rest of it, 40%. I'm good with that. Send me the gold, keep the rest of the garbage. I can live with that. We have to have redeemable gold, and they can't just say that it's backed by it, or, you know, you've got Zimbabwe that's trying to get credibility back, but it doesn't work because the public doesn't believe it. We are the public. We are bigger. There are more of us than there are of those that are ruling us. Let's take our power back. And when's the time to do it? Now. This is when it's vulnerable. This is the best opportunity that I have ever seen to do that. So we need to. And Sheridan Forbes 3480 asks, yep, good point, very good point. Make sure you have heirloom seeds. Start collecting scrap and scrap copper. Take it to the scrap yard and then buy silver. Stop keeping everything at the banks. Such a good point. And really, you know, you can go to the bank, get rolls of pennies. Any penny that was minted prior to 1982, I'm pretty sure, is 95% copper. It's a great suggestion. Yes, that's how I started out. My father was a developer, and his development was around the corner from our house, and I'd go down there and I'd gather up the scrap copper. At night, I would sit there and I would whittle off the plastic that was around that copper, and then I'd take it to my uncle Ali, who was a junk dealer, and so I would sell him the copper by weight, and then I would take that and go to my Uncle Al, the antique dealer, and buy stuff. So, yeah, I think that's a great, great suggestion. And the heirloom seeds, absolutely 100%. And then when you grow, if you are growing anything and they're heirloom seeds, you save those seeds back, right? The seeds with the GMO, they don't reproduce. Don't eat GMOs. Don't use those seeds. Thank you for that. That's a really good point. And Deb Warner, 2978, a big shout out to Martin S., strategy specialist, and his assistant Donna for helping me with completing my Zang strategy plan. Thank you to the administrative staff to make my plan a reality. And thank you, Deb, for participating in it. Because we can have all the knowledge in the world, but if we don't have partners in this, doesn't mean anything. So I'm very happy to hear this. I am not surprised. I mean, that is, we are all here to be of service, and we work for you, period. End of discussion. So thank you so much for that validation. Really appreciate it. And Daniel BBQ, why do people confuse debt for wealth? Is it our educational system? 100% it's our educational system. How come we don't know? Look, you remember I lift weights every Thursday, right? And you guys have, I'm sure, heard this story a million times, so please forgive me for the newbies. But, my trainer is an ex-attorney turned gym rat. Bright guy. His major in college was history. And so he's traveled around. He's a pretty bright guy, and I've been going to him for many years. And one day we were talking not that long ago, and somehow I brought up the fact that silver was our money, as was gold at one point. And he said to me, we had silver coins in our system? And he's in his mid-40s. And I thought, how did he not know this? Because, I think he's a pretty bright guy. I know the conversations we have. And that's when I realized, this stuff is not taught. So is it the educational system? Absolutely. The system was designed, especially since money is created from debt, to get you into debt. And if your income does not keep pace with the rate of inflation, which it doesn't by design for most people, well, then if they can do it in a measured way, rather than making changes in your choices and in your standard of living, you simply take on more and more and more debt. Look at where we are today. We are debt slaves. There are some of us, we need to show people, though, the truth. And so, yes, it is the education, and that comes from the government and the central planners not wanting the public to know that they have a choice. Inflation is not a monetary phenomenon. When we were on a fully gold or a bimetal gold and silver standard, we had ebbs and flows. We did not have booms and busts. Booms and busts are a fiat money phenomenon because winners and losers are chosen. This is one of the ways that we re-educate people. And I'll tell you, and I've not been good at this, but I'm going to get better because that's so important. I can tell you when I hand these out, and if any of you have been handing these out, I would like to know what feedback. if you could let your strategy specialist know what has been the reaction and the response, what's the good that's coming out of it? What are the challenges that you're having? Where are you getting stumped? Because if you bring those to me and I know, then not just me, us, if you bring that information to us, we got a lot of very smart people here. We will all try and figure out how to make this better and give you the tools that you need as the soldiers in this army to help people, re-educate people into sound money and what that really looks like. This wasn't $6.72 for not even a tenth of an ounce of silver. That's not because silver got that much more expensive. It's because this lost that value. So yes, it is our educational system. It is by design. It is to take advantage of you. And I ask you, is that okay with you? And when somebody doesn't want to learn about this, that's the question. Is inflation okay with you? If the answer is yes, just keep doing what you're doing because that's your vote. If the answer is no, you have to make a different choice because that's your vote. And that vote, in my opinion, and the vote that I've made is that I am all in on gold and silver. And I give it away to help people know that at one point, it was a much more fair system. And I did a piece on this because somebody, I don't remember who, I'm sorry, but it's in the front of it, and said, but we were on the gold standard during the Depression. Yeah, but I showed you today how they transitioned us from a 20th of an ounce of gold backing $1. They could only print $1 for every 20th of an ounce of gold that they held in deep storage. To legally, what they wanted was flexible money. So that 20th of an ounce of gold, then they printed, because maybe it makes it a little more clear, they then printed $2.40 for every 20th of an ounce of gold that they held in deep storage. That's how the inflation got started in the beginning. And they had to get the gold out of our possession because we had control when we had the gold in our possession. They couldn't inflate it away because there are so many users, broadest base of functionality, broadest base of demand. They couldn't inflate that away the way they could inflate this corporate debt away. So they had to take this away from us. And then as they just kept printing more and more and more, and you saw how that purchasing power was going down, that's why you hear me say quasi-gold standard. Because when you start shifting the rules, you're taking us off of a real gold standard and putting us into a different standard. By 1965, it cost more than 10 cents to create this dime because they created so much paper. So they had to get rid of that in 1965. And that's why my guy, he's about the age of my children, so he would have been born, I don't know, 1980, 81, 82. My girls were born in 81. He didn't know this. How did he not know this? If somebody that majored in history, how could he not know? Yeah, that's our education department. And we have to re-educate people. And we're asking them to make a paradigm shift. That's why doing it with dimes makes so much sense. Have a paradigm shift. Because how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? And this is something I've always done. I kind of check in and I go, is that okay with me? And if the answer is yes, just keep doing what you're doing. If it's not, you got to do something different. There's just no choice. That's when, to me, That's what integrity is. Don't complain and blah, 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 blah. And you have the opportunity to do something different and you don't. And it doesn't matter. You can sit there and say, but I can't afford gold and silver. Can you afford to learn some skills? Because that has barter value. Can you do it with scrap? Maybe you have scrap gold, scrap silver. I mean, there's just so many different ways that you can accumulate wealth. And wealth is on so many different levels. Look, I'm a trillionaire. Not. That's not wealth. This is wealth. Sorry, I'm going off on lots of tangents today. Oh, and I should tell them they can get the first dime card for free. Oh, because you're asking how to get. Call us. Put the phone number up there. If you have a strategy specialist here, talk to your strategy specialist. They'll get them to you all day long. If you don't, call us. You'll now meet a strategy specialist. That's how you get the dime cards. And, we don't make 1 penny on these. It is not about that at all. It is about education and getting the word out. So, and we've got other tools. So when you do that, make sure, and that's why I think we should almost set up another time for you guys that actually have been doing the dime cards. We might want to set up just a live meeting on another day to have that conversation about what's been working, what's not working, what's good, what's bad. I mean, help us. We're all in this. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. So that's it. Just call us. We'll get you the dime cards. That's the easy part. And Omnidon 2000 says there isn't going to be enough silver and copper for the AI and green energy. Buy silver and gold. Correct. Absolutely. 100 gazillion% correct. And by the way, once they do build out this infrastructure, if it's a choice between you getting the energy and the water, and those lobbyists from the tech companies getting that, it is critically important that you become as self-sufficient and independent as you can possibly become. And we've got to get with community locally to do that. Where? Go to the farmer's market, get to know who grows your food. Go to the local community gardens. Give these guys a day or two of your labor. You will learn those skills, but even more important than that, you will start to build that community. I cannot encourage that strongly enough. I really cannot encourage that strongly enough. Please, please. And don't wait. If any of you have been procrastinating and go, well, I want silver to go down a little bit more, gold to go up. I honestly only pay attention to the spot price so that I know what you're looking at, and because I know you pay attention to it. But I know they're not giving you the truth. I know that's just about pushing you in this direction or that direction, because that's what this whole system is about. Why is that okay? It's not okay with me. It's not okay with me. And I agree with you. And Dumma Charlie 123, Lynette, Lynette, the poor Bitcoin people are probably wishing they would have bought some gold. Well, hopefully they're doing both, and you still can liquidate Bitcoin and buy gold. Not to say you can't do that. There are still buyers. And Ernest DeBella asks, well, first of all, of course, rock and roll hoochie coo. I don't have a question this week, Lynette. I just want to say God bless you and your family. And honestly, God bless all of you. I have been look at where I am, right? Look at what I get to do. I get to fulfill my destiny. And that's thanks to you, because if you guys weren't here, wouldn't be any point, is it? So thank you, and I appreciate that. And I'm sorry that I should just start everything. Rock and roll hoochie coo. And I'm very sorry, by the way, I must apologize because I know that Tom ran some of that audio of me singing rock and roll. I mean, you shut it down pretty fast though, didn't you? Yeah, because as soon as I heard it, I went, no. So I have to apologize to that for you. You can see the video. That was funny enough. And Mona, 1930. I don't think many people your age care about future generations. I actually think that's just the opposite. I think we care an awful lot. And especially once we get to this age, we know that we're now transferring whatever it is that we have onto this next generation. And, I can tell you, people my age care. And they're I can't say that they're the most fun, but it is truly a lot of fun for me to hand out these dime cards to people my age because they remember this and they're like, oh yeah, that's right. So they do care. They care a lot. They've just forgotten, right? They've just forgotten. It just popped into my head. Do you guys remember that movie Hook with Robin Williams? And he had grown up, Peter. He had forgotten Neverland. And I think that's what happens. How many years has it been since 1965? And I mean, we still had silver for actually quite some time because they didn't pull it out of the system. Just when it came out of the system and went into the banks, it didn't go back out again. But I think you're wrong, Mona. I think that people that are my age and older and younger care a lot about the next generation. They just might not know what to do. So help them. Help them. And West Texas Stacker, y'all hear about all the Bitcoin the Fed seized. Well, of course they're going to seize it, and it can even go into wherever they want it to go into. They've got it in a Bitcoin account, but that's still not gold. It still doesn't have the same kind of demand. So they're going to have a Bitcoin reserve, but they got to have a gold reserve. What are you seeing global central banks do? Buy Bitcoin or buy gold? They're buying gold. And Daniel BBQ, the gold wasn't to help you get a car. It's to get you to have a monthly car payment. Voila. And I got news for you too. Stay tuned. All those great electronic features that they're putting in all the cars these days. I would imagine that at some point, if you want that backup camera that you're now absolutely dependent upon, you're going to have to pay a monthly subscription. So I think a lot of this, absolutely, it was for you to have a monthly car payment. And the next setup, we've seen it, right? Everything a subscription. So therefore, according to the World Economic Forum, by 2030, you own nothing. But I don't think you're going to be happy. So, yep, you're absolutely right. And by the way, one of the examples years ago, I probably maybe 2016, 17, something like that, in one of the IMF papers, they actually used a car as an example that once they got everything autonomous, so autonomous driving, smart homes, right? That if you missed a car payment, the car could simply lock you out and drive away. Now, when they came out with that, a lot of people probably thought, maybe they can do, maybe not. What do you think now? Right? You miss a mortgage payment, they lock you out of your house, you ain't getting in. I mean, you got to think about this. There's good and there's bad. No matter what it is, everything is a double-edged sword. So you have to pick and choose what's going to work for you. That's why we start with your goals. That's why there's not just one blanket answer. And Liza Jane 84 asks, if there's a remonetized of the value of our dollar after a crash, will they equally demonetize the debt proportionately, or will the devaluing of the dollar devalue the debt? So, and maybe you can pull this link to Tom and put that in the description on what happens during hyperinflation, because I've done pieces on lots of pieces on all of that. And when you're looking at the debt, what they do, because it should be pretty clear that the banks, since they are primarily the ones that distribute the policy of the central banks, that the banks are the ones that are not too big to fail. So what happens in these cases is they start changing the rules. Now, this is easier for them to do in other parts of the world than in the U.S., because the U.S. has 30-year fixed rate mortgages, which is, I can't even begin to tell you what an advantage that is for us. Any long-term fixed rate debt, with them doing this to the dollar, is advantageous. In most other countries, that debt resets. And so based upon what's happening with the interest rates, it's going to change how much your payments are. But here in the U.S., and I can tell you in Mexico, they had longer fixed-term mortgage payments. And so first, they started by re-indexing the interest rates over a certain period of time. That could be why gold and silver hang out higher after a reset. And I'm seeing the image in my mind. That's why you see me looking down, because I'm looking at that image. So the first thing that they attempt to do, and remember, I'm pretty sure you guys didn't read all of your legalese in that big, thick mortgage document that you signed, but they will start re-indexing the interest payments to make your payments keep more pace with that hyperinflation. That's why. But they can't do it, and if you have a 30-year fix, they can't do it immediately. That's the advantage that we have in that reset and the gold staying up there, because we're going to have to time it. I'm not going to tell you that we're going to be perfect. We're going to try, and we're already working on it. So the longer we have this plan in place, and the more attuned our wholesalers are to what we're going to do, especially when nobody else knows about it and doesn't know how to do it, this is going to have to be really scheduled. So if you're working with us, we need to make sure that you are in regular contact, especially as we move forward to execute the exit parts of the strategy. The entry parts are critically important because they need to support what you're trying to accomplish. But you must have an exit part of the strategy. And I'm pretty sure nobody else really talks about that. Well, this is one of the exit parts on there. So we take some of the gold that we have earmarked to pay off that debt before the gold is then devalued as well. But once that gets devalued, then it starts climbing, and it climbs faster than anything else again, because especially after that first or maybe the second, I don't know how many overnights they're going to do. But until they actually put a real component of gold in there, they're not done hyperinflating that debt away. So that's something else you might want to just keep in the back of your mind to know, well, is it over? They just did something. Does that mean that everything is okay? Not going to be okay until they bring in a component of gold. And they will do that. They've done it 100% of the time. Will this time be different? Probably not. Probably not. So when there is a component of gold, and it's redeemable, because you saw Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe gold. but it's not, you can't take, it's not redeemable. You can't pull it out. It's still pegged. So it doesn't mean anything, and they still aren't getting the population to trust it. So it's got to be with a population trusting it. But the debt does not get devalued. It's not proportionate. It's not proportionate. They re-index things because it is the banks that are too big to fail. It is the public that's just the right size to fail. Now, if we come together, then that changes the dynamics. That's what I'm trying to do by a global community, is change those dynamics. But, well, Tom, you're going to put up, or if not, let's make sure that all the strategy specialists know about the 2 links for those 2 different videos that I did on the real estate and the mortgage and stuff like that. It'll be in, they'll be in the description. Or you can ask for them, either way. That'll work. Okay. And then at Craig Williams, and I don't know how great a job I just did with that last one. I'm sorry, but Craig Williams, 5581 asks, when it's $1,800 an ounce, how much can one expect to get for a 1983 U.S. commemorative discus thrower? Well, it could very well command a premium above that $1,800 an ounce. But understand that when spot silver, the spot silver contracts gets to 1,800 or 5,000 or 100,000 or 10 trillion, that's in hyperinflationary money. It won't have the same kind of value that it has today. Just like today's silver what you can sell it for doesn't have the same kind of value that silver used to have, or gold. I mean, remember 1913, $800 a year was an average wage, and a family of 4 could live off of that. If you got $800 a year today, you're not eating. You do not have a roof over your head. You are in deep, deep doo-doo. So just understand the difference between the equivalent would be $175,000, and you're not really wealthy. There was a time $175,000 income a year was a ton of money. When I first became a stockbroker in the 80s, if you had $1 million, you could put that into treasuries and generate a 10% return. So you were getting $100,000 a year in interest without touching your principal. And that was very wealthy in the 80s. That was a lot of money. So keep in mind that's just nominal confusion. Those numbers are nominal confusion. This $20 bill, I think I've got 2 in here. Yeah. This $20 bill was minted in 1969. And what this $20 bill could buy me would be groceries for a week or more, lots of stuff. I could get a really, really nice designer leather purse with $20. I remember that. So this $20 bought a whole lot in 1969 when it was first minted. What is this $20? It's the same $20. They all look the same. It's the same $20 bill. Can you buy a week's worth of groceries with $20 today? And when I first got divorced and my babies were 3 at that time, and I'd have a $20 bill to go to the grocery store with, and that needed to last me as long as I could make it last me. Fortunately, I'm a really good cook, and I know how to stretch food, and my girls never went hungry. I did, but they didn't. So, yeah, just don't get blinded by that nominal confusion. It doesn't matter how many zeros are after it. It matters what you can convert it into, which was kind of the point too. And Stephanie's 7013 DJT stablecoin is my prediction. We'll find out. West Texas Stacker, my only question I've had for a long time now. We all know the dollar is weak, but it would seem like Stacker would love a total collapse of the dollar. It wouldn't be good for anyone, even if you have silver and gold. And you're absolutely right. This is not something I want to happen. It's just something that always happens because of the level of abuse in the system. And everything that we are seeing now, I mean, what was happening in the 70s? Right? Look at Nixon. And Nixon did get impeached, and there was Watergate, right? It's the degradation of values. It's the degradation of everything. You know, money is the root of all evil. Fiat money, I'd say fiat money is the root of all evil because it chooses winners and losers. That's exactly what it does. Take that power away from them. That's what I say. But I agree. We all know. So what's your question? Because I don't. Oh, there's the next question. Oh, okay. I'm not sure what the question is. You say my only question I've had for a long time now. We all know the dollar is weak, but it would seem like Stacker would love a total collapse of the dollar. Now, that's not a question. It wouldn't be good for anyone, even if you have silver and gold. That's not a question either. So this gal is pretty savvy. If you're referring to me, thank you so much. Just not buying into the doom and gloom of the dollar to get people to stack precious metals. That's not what I'm talking about. Here, put the purchasing power chart up again. And go to the max. Because this is just the year. This isn't about, don't we have a chart that we show the loss of purchasing power? We do. Versus spot gold. I know we have that. Look, this is why. Here, take that off. I'm going to explain why. All right, maybe this will get you Texas. Okay. This is sound money. This is fiat money. Both of them are money. They're just different sides of the coin. So if you go in, and you can do this, anybody can do this, go into stockcharts.com. You can do this free, none cost you anything. And I've actually done videos to show you how to get this. And in there, can we do that? Oh, we're out of time. No, not really. Okay, I'm going to have to do this verbally because we only have 3 minutes left. Okay, so these are both money. Now, if you go into stockcharts.com, you can pull up a chart on the dollar. It's a $USD, and that's the dollar against a standard weighted basket. But on the lower right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a little teeny box that says more. Push on that and go to, there's a PERF, perf chart. That is the relative performance of one thing against another, whatever you choose. So if you put in the $ and US dollar, you go to that perf chart, and then you put in the $ and GOLD, and that will pull up the spot gold chart. And then you can look easily at the performance of the spot dollar chart relative to the spot gold chart. You know what? Will you come back next week? And if you mark that down, I will do that and I will show you what I'm talking about. How about that? So I'm going to answer that question. I appreciate you thinking I'm savvy. I've just been around for a really long time. And I've been doing this, honestly, on some level since that I can actually say, oh, 1964, and probably even before that without really realizing it. So, I better be reasonably good at it. I'm doing it this long. And thank you guys so much for being here. I really cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. And if you find value in it, subscribe. Hit that like button, leave us a comment. Let's grow this channel. But even more important than that, let's grow this community. And don't forget, I think it's next week, right? Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the Sound Money Hour. That might actually be a good way to kick off with that relative performance chart, actually. So we'll have it there. I'll do it for this stacker if you're not going to go to that. But join us on the Sound Money Hour. Let's take our power back. Let's come together. You're the army. I'm a warrior. We can do this. And until next we meet, please, wherever you are in the world, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.